today's deck tech is our first of our March Madness deck tech series. Yay! And it's contributed by one of my viewers, Phil. He gave me this deck a while ago and said I should try it out, and I really like it. It's a ton of fun to play. It's in some of my favorite colors. It's pretty relatively inexpensive compared to some of the other decks I'm wanting to build, so I really like that about it. And it's based around a creature type in the Zendikar block that I'd never heard of before, since I barely just started playing in the Theros block, so I was really excited to try it out and just see how it worked and stuff, and it's going to be awesome to play with. It's based around the ally kind of, sort of. So the allies, whenever allies come into play, they do things and stuff, and so all the creatures, except for two, are all these ally types. So that's, it's kind of, I like stuff like that where they have synergy, and it's, yeah, this one does. So creatures include 4 copies of Haida Freebride, 1 white mana for an 0/1, and whenever it or another ally creature you control enters the battlefield, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on it. So that's awesome. When everything else is ally creatures, you're going to be doing that a lot. So 4 copies of that. Our next creature is 4 copies of Heribaz Druid, which is a human druid ally. So 2 mana, a 1 colorless and a green for an 0/1 again, and you can tap it and add X mana of any color, any 1 color, to your mana pool, where X is the number of allies you control, which is going to be a lot. Next creature, 2 copies of Highland Berserker, 1 colorless and a red mana for a 2/1. I'm all about 2 mana 2/1s with haste and stuff like that. Which he doesn't have haste, but he's an ally, of course. And his ability, whenever he or another ally enters the battlefield, you give ally creatures you control first strike until the end of turn. So yeah, that 1 toughness doesn't matter, because you're first strike in everything, which is way cool, especially for 2 mana, so that's fun. Alright, our last 2 drop is 4 copies of a 2 white spell, Khazad-dûn Blade Master. He's like, guess what? A human soldier ally. Who would have thought? Just kidding. He has first strike and vigilance. He doesn't even need a berserker to give him first strike, but he has vigilance, so that's cool. He's a 1/1, and whenever he or another ally enters the battlefield, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on him. So that's really cool, because make all the things bigger, and you're going to be putting stuff out, and hopefully you'll be able to play him out pretty early in the game, even though he has a 2 white mana cost. But if you can get him out early and build him up, it'll be sweet. Alright, I also have a 4 drop, 3 colorless and a white for a Talas Paladin. He is a 2/3, and whenever an ally or him enters the battlefield, you get to put +1/+1 on him, so that's awesome. And all other ally creatures you control get lifelink until end of turn, which is sweet. A lot of decks will run Seeker of the Way because of that life gain is just important, especially against burn decks, which there may or may not be one in our tournament, so this will be really good against that deck, yeah. Lifelink is a booger against burn decks. Alright, 2 copies of a 5 mana creature, 4 colorless and a red for Kazul Warlord. He's a human. No, he's not a human. I was going to say, that does not look like a human at all. He's a Minotaur warrior ally. He's a 3/3 for 5 mana. Yeah, I know. But whenever another ally or him enters the battlefield, you get to put +1/+1 counters on each ally you control. Not just him. Everyone. Ugh. That's my evil laugh, in case you haven't figured that out. This is going to be so much fun to play. Alright, the final 2 creatures in this deck are not allies. I know, weird. It's Novablast Ward. The reason it's not allies, because once you get one of these out, it doesn't really matter. 3 colorless mana, 2 green, and 2 white. Ugh, he's expensive, but he's a 7/7 for 7 mana, so he fits right up on curve, and when he ever attacks, you get to destroy all other creatures. So basically, once you get them out, you really don't need anything else because you're just gonna kill it all. So that's awesome. A giant worm that kills all the things. That's why he's not an ally, because you don't need one. So yeah, that's an awesome win con. Just obliterating them with a giant worm. I like it. Instants and spells. These are the instants. We have 4 copies of Boros Charm, my favorite, I think, of all the charms. I don't know, I haven't looked at the Gruul charm, so maybe it's not my favorite, but it's totally my favorite right now. Red and a white to A, give indestructibility to all your permanents, which is amazing. Or you can give target creature first strike, which is also really good in a heroic deck. I was running this before they switched out because, oh, it was so much fun. This was the first card I, invested more than $1 a card into, was 4 copies of Boros Charm for my red-white heroic deck, and it was totally worth it. So, look, I even have all 4 copies. I don't have to get this. Yay! And the last ability, so, indestructibility, first strike, or not first strike, double strike. What am I talking about? It's even better than that. Double strike until end of turn, or you just deal 4 damage to creature or to target player. That's fun. You know, just punch him in the face. Because Boros is a fist. Get it? Yeah, okay. I'm done. I promise I'm done. So, that's 4 full copies of that because I want 4 full copies of things to throw in people's faces. I like that. And indestructibility, and possibly giving things double strike. I don't know if you were watching the Pro Tour last weekend, but that one play where his opponent was at 21 and he was able to, what was it, double strike, trample, become immense his creature and win from, he was at 3. Yeah, it was beautiful, and that's why I like double strike now. It's my new favorite thing. I also include 4 copies of 4 copies of Join the Ranks, 4 mana, 3 colorless, and a white. You're gonna put 2 1/1 white soldier ally tokens, creature tokens onto the battlefield. It's a little expensive, but the fact that it's an ally just makes it worthwhile, especially if you have any of your other creatures except the worms out. It's gonna do a ton of stuff. It's going to make them bigger. If you've got your Minotaur Warrior, it's going to pump them and they'll end up being 2 3/3s because one will trigger and it works. It works. 4 of those because that's fun. I also have 4 copies of Summoning Trap. This is very expensive spell, 6 mana, 4 colorless, and 2 green, but the reason it's called a trap card is if a creature spell you cast this turn was countered by an opponent or spell or ability, you pay 0 rather than the mana cost. So it's either really expensive or 0. I'll take it. Seriously. And then you can look at the top 7 cards of your library and you may put a creature card from among those onto the battlefield, and then you put the rest at the bottom of your library. Basically, what you're hoping to hit with this is your giant worm. You can't do this with worms. They're not dragons, and they don't have wings. Maybe this worm does. Maybe the Nova Blast worm has wings. Does he? No, he doesn't. He just looks really scary. But yeah, that's what you're hoping to hit, and if you don't hit one of those and you have allies out, hitting any ally is going to do a ton of stuff for you because, yeah, allies. Enchantments include 4 copies of Hardened Scales, 1 green mana to have a pretty awesome enchantment in this deck. If one or more counters, +1/+1 counters are going to be put on a creature, you put twice, or that many +1. So if you're going to put 3, you put 4, so every time you get to trigger your ally stuff, you get to put +1 more token on that. So that's really awesome and cool. Because, yes, you can just make an immense army of, superhero allies, and it's awesome. I also have 2 copies of Nimbus Wings, 1 colorless and 1 white mana, for enchant creature and give it +1, +2, and flying. Just in case you need a flyer. This will take care of it. Or if you need to get over their stuff, you give this to your biggest thing and then just... This is it! This is the card that'll give the Nova Blast Worm wings. We figured it out. We found it. That is awesome. I'm going to hope I get to play this deck and that I get to put wings on my giant Nova Blast Worm, because that would be the best day ever. Land-based is pretty simple. 9 copies of forest, 4 copies of mountains, and 9 copies of plains, giving you a total of 22 land. And since most things are going to be less than 6/5, what's the highest creature that you really want to play? 5? It'll be okay with 22. Not bad at all. Anyway, if you can't tell, I'm really excited about the possibility of putting wings on a giant worm and then killing everything else but it with this flying angelic worm dude of awesome destructiveness. Yes, I'm really excited about this, and yeah, you should check this deck out that you already watched all of it for. Comment below what you think of this deck, like this video, and subscribe for more.